Welcome back to Investing with Confidence. I am your host, Joshua David, and we're combating financial illiteracy. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Investing with Confidence podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Al, as we get into this next segment, you mentioned something earlier that I want to make sure we tackle and dissect a little bit. When we're talking about retirement accounts and retirement strategies and 401ks, IRAs, most people do what we talked about in the first segment. They just buy and hold with the hope to have enough at the end when they want to be able to retire that's going to last them. But there's a problem there. Not many people already are getting to that promised land. People don't have enough to retire. They're forced to work longer. They don't get to choose their retirement date. It actually chooses them.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about up markets, we talked about the down markets as well, the opportunities with both. But sometimes in retirement accounts, those down markets can be devastating for people's retirement accounts. Now, you talked about an insurance policy. There's different ways to potentially protect what you have in your retirement accounts, right? So let's talk about that insurance policy, what that consists of, and what may some people be able to do potentially to protect what they have. That was really what they worked so hard for.
Well, that word protection really is the number one area of concern or the area that you should be concentrating on when you go into retirement. You work maybe 30 or 40 years to put together some money that you hope will get you through your retirement years. The last thing you want to have happen is go into retirement and then go through a major market drawdown. A lot of people, and we see that in these classes that we have, Josh, people that come in and say, yeah, I retired in 2007 and then lost 40 or 50% of my retirement money in the next year or so. That's devastating because, it's hard when you're 65, 70, 75 years old to go out and start a new career. And, we don't want to be a downer on these things, but, when you're 65, a 65-year-old really these days needs to prepare for probably 3 decades of food, 3 decades of housing, medical expenses, and hopefully some fun thrown in there.
Don't forget that out there.
No, you've got to have that. I mean, that's the reason you go into retirement with hope and a positive attitude is that now you can relax. Now you can enjoy the fruits of your labor over the 30, 40 years that you were working. Well, for a lot of people, it just isn't happening. And we're seeing that. We see people come into these classes that actually have a pretty decent amount of money in a retirement account, but they're still worried. They're worried about another drawdown because, we've had the longest bull market in history that a lot of these people went through since the year 2009, but they're really concerned because there are some things out there to be concerned about. I mean, we've got debt that is just exploding. It took us 205 years, the American, our economy, our markets to, not our,
let's keep going.
It took us 205 years for the government to rack up $1 trillion in debt. This last year, between the months of April and June, it was $1 trillion a month. And that's debt that could have an impact on the value of the dollar. So let's say you go into retirement and you have $1 million in a retirement account, how valuable is that $1 million if it only buys $100 worth of goods? I mean, so the value of the dollar is going to be important, but that protection is huge. Not only protection, which you can get with some of the assets that we're talking about. Options can be used as a protective device, as an insurance policy for your portfolio or for individual assets. You can use the futures market and the Forex market. You can go long and you can go short with those. And by short, I mean participating in a down market very easily using those assets. So there are strategies you can use, assets you can use to participate, not just in up markets, but in down markets and in sideways markets. So once you have that protection identified, a risk management strategy, a protection strategy, then you want to look at how you're going to grow your retirement assets. In fact, here's some questions to ask yourself. How are you going to achieve income, or if you're retired, how are you going to achieve income or dollars for short-term needs when you retire? Because once you retire, your income is gone. And when you think about it, you go through your work years. When are you at the highest salary area? The highest earning years are typically those years just before you retire. So you've maybe given up many years of time with your family. By the time you retire, maybe your family's gone. Maybe there's some medical issues that are going to impact how you live in retirement. and then your income is gone. It's just cut off when you retire. So how do you replace that? How do you take advantage of what you have or what the markets can provide? And then how do you grow the account so you're not just drawing it down and dwindling it away? And then again, how do you provide protection? Those are questions that you should ask, and they're questions that we help you answer.
I'm glad you brought a lot of that stuff up about what really happens when things don't go so well. But here's the majority of our listeners probably haven't experienced into that yet, which which is unfortunate. Well, which is good, but it's
Correct.
unfortunate that people have been so conditioned to just continue to hope it keeps going up. Here's the thing: I want people to just prepare, right? Prepare for up markets, prepare for down markets, because you don't want to be that person that doesn't have enough. Don't let that happen. You be in charge with that. So, Al, when you talk about these different techniques and concepts about retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, TSPs, 403bs, all the different retirement plans that are out there, there's possibilities of doing different things than you've been told that you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
And all it is just learning these different techniques and concepts. I mean, maybe even just to have a better conversation with your broker, really to help you sleep better at night. When we talk about these retirement accounts, 401ks, a company sponsored 401k plan, there may be possibilities, but there also may be limitations to what you can do with it. You said earlier, you might be stuck with mutual funds or stocks or ETFs, which is fine. That's all you have the opportunity to utilize. Now, we're seeing so many people that have an old 401k that want to be able to put it into an IRA, which is self-directed then. They also have like a broker or an advisor, some other people that we're talking to that don't really they like their guy or gal,
Mhm.
but they think they can probably do better,
Right.
right? So there's opportunities to move that to a self-directed IRA, which is a simple rollover, is what it is.
Correct.
Now, just kind of walk through that process real quick so people can understand what that really consists of.
Yeah, and a lot of people when you say roll that money over, they're maybe concerned about taking all of their retirement money and all of a sudden they have the responsibility of managing it. Well, two things I would say there. Number one, you don't need to take all of it. You can start with a small amount, and then when you gain the confidence to be able to do this on your own, when you are consistently, you know, uh, functioning in a way that is meets your goals, meets your expectations, then maybe take a look at maybe taking a little bit more money. But think about this: your 401ks, your employer sponsored retirement plan, whatever it is, you're already managing that. You're making the decisions. You're given a basically a list of things you can invest in, and then you make the choice. You're not really getting much advice. What are you actually told by the plan sponsor? And how often are you meeting with someone to help give you some kind of guidance? For most people, it's 0 times a year, basically 0 forever. So you're already making those decisions. A self-directed retirement account, which you can roll your 401k into, if for whatever reason you leave a company, then you are making the choices. You're not paying the fees that are associated with an employer-sponsored plan, and you have access to the assets that we're talking about: futures, forex, options, in addition to stock.
I'm glad you brought that four-letter word up, fees. That is the biggest problem with 401ks. The 401ks are a good thing. They've helped people learn how to save, but the fees can be devastating in retirement accounts. And I want to get into that in the next segment. I'm
Sure.
glad you brought that up. But Al, you talk more, in these investing classes that you teach here at the Academy, you talk about these 401k, different opportunities you may have to potentially roll an old 401k and self-direct it and do that with the confidence. And it's just learning the techniques, the skills. Al, as I mentioned, I want to talk about that four-letter word. It's fees in the next segment. Different ways people may be able to potentially lower fees. Because think about this. I want you to bring these stats in the next segment. What are those fees really costing you? We'll be right back.